I'm gonna do a little video on brake fluid for you guys that have .4. I'm just gonna pull this apart here. This is the master cylinder cap on the front. Well, .4 brake fluid is what they call a hygroscopic brake fluid. We have this little tester right here, and I was actually half expecting this fluid to be gelled up in here because the front brakes are not working properly, but the way that what this tester does is measures the amount of water percentage in the brake fluid. And it's a very simple test. All we do is stick this down in there and then we measure it. And then as you can see, this one's maxed out here. It's going to 4% or above. Pull it out of there and nothing. As soon as I stick it in, we got major saturation of water in there. And the hygroscopic means a lot of things. Basically, it means that it is going to absorb water in .4 systems as opposed to previous years when they had .5 systems. So we're going to go to the table here and take a look at the two fluids and take a look at some of the problems that it can cause. We're talking about .4. I'm also going to talk about .5 a little bit. Here we go. We got a bottle of .4. This stuff does have a shelf life on it. Harley-Davidson says that you're supposed to replace .4 every 2 years. We're supposed to dispose of these bottles every so often as well. But in any case, .4. Now, .4 they started using in 2005 on touring models, 2006 on everything except for Sportsters, and 2007 they went with everything for .4. Previously they used .5. .5 is a silicone type brake fluid. So remember we said this is hygroscopic. So what it does is absorbs water. .5 displaces water. So I'll get back to .5 stuff here in a minute. The .4 stuff. .4 is a lot like .3 where it's corrosive. Here we have an example of what happens if you don't do anything with your .4 system. It has a vent hole in this cap that fills this space up with air. It'll also absorb air and water right through the brake lines, and then this is a perfect example of what happens. The .4 begins to turn into a gel. By the way, this will also happen to the brake fluid here if you mix .4 with .5. You cannot mix them, but you can basically see how gelled up this is. This front brake here, the system is not working. It could be a pretty dangerous thing if you hop on the bike and ride off on that. For you ABS guys, analog brake system guys, it creates an even bigger problem. This is an ABS block, ABS pump for a Harley-Davidson Touring one. I believe this is out of 2004. And we had to replace this one. We asked Harley why. Harley says, well, when's the last time you changed the brake fluid? They said there's going to be corrosion inside here because of the water and the air that it's absorbed. And there were some fittings here. We had to cut those out. They're pressed in from the factory. They're like machined and pressed in. But anyways, this is how the ABS pump system works. This is just a motor, just a solenoid, if you will. And when this motor rotates here, it doesn't rotate on center. It rotates kind of back and forth, kind of wobbles a little bit. And then it pushes these two pistons back and forth, and that's what generates pressure for your ABS system. And then it runs through all these little ports and eventually comes out these. Now we left one here, and this actually broke off. Your brake fluid has to make it through this. It has to make it through those ports. So anyways, when Harley said, well, there's going to be corrosion inside, we decided we were going to cut one apart and take a look at it. So that's what we did. We didn't find much on the ports themselves, although the pieces are so tiny that it's pretty tough to see inside of them. What we did find is that on this piece right here, and you can also see it on this piece, see a little bit of tint, a little bit of red? Rust, corrosion. This is about a $400 or $500 part. pretty expensive for not bleeding the brakes out. Okay, this is the .5. They went with .4, and they went with the .4 system primarily for their ABS systems. The .5 couldn't handle the pressure that it was putting on. There's lots of other reasons, but basically they went away from .5. .5 was really good because it was non-corrosive, but what's happening now that we're with .4 and you're supposed to change it out and you're ending up with gelling problems from lack of maintenance, it's because we've never had to do it on .5 before. Guys would just have .5 and let it go, but this stuff does go bad after a while too. And we were talking about this. This is silicone. This displaces water. So what happens here on the silicone stuff, when the water gets in, remember it comes in through the master cylinder cap, comes naturally in right through the lines. It will take the water and it pushes it down. Go to a bike here, pushes it down, and this is obviously the wrong here. Pushes the water down the system through the lines, and they end up in the bottom of the caliper. When they end up in the bottom of the caliper, this caliper is solid billet aluminum, and it begins to corrode that. And again, the same type of thing is going to happen. Your brakes are going to not function as well. Again, this is on the earlier model bikes, so 05 and earlier or so, roughly there. You'll press the brake lever in and it'll go almost to the grip or all the way to the grip. If you have a bike of that vintage, that's indicating that there's a problem there. We can bring that back most times. If the corrosion is really bad inside the caliper, say we put a new master cylinder kit in this and rebleed the system and we're still having the same issue, it's going to usually be a problem in the caliper itself, and we have to replace it. That's the bottom line. So anyways, just a quick video on basic maintenance. If you have .4 in your system, you need to come in and have it checked out. We got the little tester, we can do it real quick. If you're not sure of what type of brake fluid that you have, if you look at the top of your master cylinder cap, let me get a different one here. This one's all corroded up. The paint is eating off it because this is a .4 system. It'll say right there, .4. And it might say .5. Either way, if you haven't done your brakes for a while, bring it in. Thanks.